Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses today. And I, too, want to associate my remarks of the ranking member and add my additional remarks as follows. I am concerned by the rhetoric that I'm hearing today. While I take the economic threat that China may pose very, very seriously, I worry that the Republican majority is not committed to taking some essential steps to combat this issue. The Republicans are set on decreasing the federal budget, but it appears to me that significant investments might be necessary, particularly in the global south, to ensure that China's presence does not grow stronger. I would like to begin by focusing on China's strong financial presence in Latin America. As a representative from Texas, this issue is too close to home, literally. China has a large financial presence in Venezuela, Ecuador, Brazil, and many other Latin American nations, and I worry about the impact it has on U.S. influence and trade relations, particularly as it impacts us in the Texas region. Mr. Harrell, can you please speak about China's presence in Latin America, and can you explain what the United States can do to offer alternative to Chinese investments, in particular in the region?
So we've definitely seen an increase in China's economic presence in Latin America over the last decade. Sort of recent events disclose perhaps also an increase in surveillance presence and other kinds of presence down there as well. Part of the reason for that increased presence is frankly sort of basic economics. China's buying a lot of commodities. Latin America exports a lot of commodities. You're going to see the trade ties increase there. There is also obviously a strategic overlay that China is taking to this, where they are deliberately investing in Latin America as a region that is near to the U.S., but frankly a swing region where our diplomatic relationships have not always been the warmest and our economic ties have not always been the strongest. So you see them doing that with Ecuador, you see that doing it with Venezuela and places like that. I think what we need to do to respond is to relentlessly highlight the downsides and costs of this kind of low quality, high debt, high default kind of Chinese investment we're seeing down there, and then be forward in the region ourselves. We have to get DFC down there. We have to get XM down there. We have to make the Americas Partnership for Economic Prosperity a real thing. We have to get USAID active down there. So it is both highlighting the costs and the challenges of what China's doing down there, while also offering concrete and tangible alternatives ourselves.
Right, because we're seeing that they're lending, they're investing, they're building, they're developing. I mean, they're doing, in my view, a lot of things that we, as a good neighbor in the Western Hemisphere, should be doing with the Americas, and we have failed to do, not only, frankly, for a very long time, and it worries me that China will get a better strategic, position to not only threaten us economically, but strategically in terms of our security. So, what else can we do to make sure that the United States maintains good relations with the Americas?
So I laid out a couple of ideas. I also think having continued strong cultural exchange programs often get overlooked in these discussions. But as a former diplomat at the State Department, who then spent a number of years at the White House, the number of times we were able to build a relationship with whether it was a European official or an Argentinian official or an Indonesian official, because that person had come here for school, because that person had family here. Those are sort of the soft power kind of things that can really pay off over time in terms of deepening relationships.
Right, because otherwise then China just continues to use these countries for their own political purposes, but also to build in what I consider the anti-USA sentiment. And it doesn't help, again, to listen to some of the rhetoric of beating up on everything south of the border. Rather than criticizing, we should be helping and being true partners and true neighbors. So thank you for that. I yield back.